Homer, Hesiod, Euripides, Ovid, Lucan, and other classical writers give their mythological figures varied and eventful lives. Circe, Medusa, Andromeda, Danae, Persephone all have fascinating, complex, layered, and often quite sad stories. And all of them are bound together by having been treated quite unjustly by the gods and goddesses. But in the retelling of their stories by successive generations, we have made them diminished and disfigured. And in the hands of sculptors or painters, a whole complex life is usually distilled down into a single, endlessly repeated snapshot of an instant in their lives. Andromeda is shown at the moment of her release from the bondage of cuffs that anchor her to a rock, and Circe is represented as preparing to turn those who approach her into swine or into other animals, but usually as a bit of a femme fatale who seduces you to eagerly gulp her poison. Persephone is always emerging from Hades as a kind of goddess of rebirth and flowers in the spring. And Medusa is frozen forever in that moment of fatal contact with Perseus, though she has so many other tales to tell. And Danae, in spite of her complex and eventful life, is forever being impregnated by Zeus, who spills down upon her body in the form of a shower of gold. The tendency in the last few years among classic scholars to reclaim the whole life of mythological figures is perhaps the most interesting thing to happen to mythology in ages, perhaps in millennia. The depth and clarity Natalie Haynes and Madeline Miller are bringing to the whole life, outward and inward, of Circe, Medusa, and Pandora highlights how culture has embraced a single snapshot moment of their lives, turning it into an aesthetic playground of fantasy and desire. The most extreme form of this disfiguring makeover is Danae's shower of gold, which of course resonates with all of us in all sorts of ways, and perhaps it should. It certainly plays a role in our culture. It gives wetness back to erotic imagery, and it opened up for centuries a safe, painterly space where artists, both male and female, could represent a woman's pleasure and even erotic rapture without being subject to censorship or to censure. Even in the most conservative periods, artists have been able to paint Danae in a kind of bliss, with their works adorning the homes of the wealthy and the powerful, and later sitting in pride of place in major museums throughout the world. Now, to be on the safe side, many painters represented not a liquid shower, but a shower of golden coins. I mean, what possibly could be erotic about that? But look again at what many artists do to the coins. That change from coins to droplets is a visual moment when the truth of painting comes flooding out. Now, we all titter a bit and smile at the obvious subtext as museums waffle on titling the works Danae and the Shower of Gold or Danae and the Golden Shower. But here's the point, and I think it's an important one. The risque subtext that has been there all along from the beginning is not the most radical thing going on with Danae paintings, not even close. We can turn to Gustav Klimt's astonishing Danae, where Zeus's flooding is obviously Danae's flood as well. There's no missing the fierce, beautiful, soaking erotics of Klimt's 1907 masterpiece. But Klimt is really representing something that's been there all along. If you want to get a sense of what painters were truly representing in their endless depictions of Danae, Don't look at the shower of gold spilling down upon her, but rather look at Danae's face. At core, what we have is 500 years of painting the most intimate kind of rapture and hiding it in plain sight. Watch the faces.